Hi friends and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Angela. This is Luna, who bagged the chair first, so I'm relegated to sitting on the floor, which happens a lot. Today I have a tag video for you. I don't know if I was tagged or if I just saw this tag and I thought, oh, that's cool. So this was a tag I saw Kim from Middle of the Book March do, and it's called the winning title tag. And I thought it would be fun to kind of introduce you to a few titles of books that I have read that maybe I haven't talked about for some reason or another. So the prompt is, have you ever read a book because it had, and then the first one is a funny title. And I do have one. I've picked all the books off the shelf already. The one that I picked was Bossypants, which I no longer have the cover of, but the cover is very funny as well. And it's by Tina Fey. It is a memoir of her time coming into the industry as a comedian and her time on Saturday Night Live and movies. And it's all the sort of things that you would want to read from Tina Fey, and in a very, very funny way. And it kind of, I was very intrigued with the idea of her being a Bossypants. So I can't recall, I read this a while ago and I can't recall if she was a Bossypants. I can't recall how the title fit into the story, but Bossypants, Tina Fey, it's not a word I associate with her, and I think it's a funny title. Have you ever read a book because it had a shocking title? I read a book called The Virgin Suicides. That is a shocking title to me. I knew this story already from having watched the movie so many times, but I wanted to read the book anyway, and it is phenomenal. The movie is such a great adaptation. It really was true to the story. Even though it was so well done, I still felt like reading this book was like experiencing the story for the first time. But definitely the title is something that made me think, like it was quite shocking when I first, even coming across the movie for the first time, it was quite shocking. Have you ever read a book that sounded like a line of poetry? Yes. The one that I came up with was Where the Old Roses Grow by Janelle McCollogh. I don't know, every time I heard this book title, it made me think of a song like that Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue song of Where the Old Roses Grow, I think it was called. Where the Wild Roses Grow. That's what I kept calling this, Where the Wild Roses Grow. So it did remind me of a song lyric, which can be poetry, I guess. And that was what I chose for that. This was a really interesting book. If you haven't read it, if you're a gardener who loves literature, I recommend this book. It was so beautiful. I ended coming out of it with so many other book recommendations that I wanted to read. I think the title really fits in perfectly with that lyrical literature feeling that you get from it. Have you ever read a book that made you question? I chose two books for this because I chose one first and then I was like, oh my gosh, there's another one that is even better. So the first one I chose was The Offing from Benjamin Myers. I had never heard of the word offing before, so I thought it might have been some word to like a murder, but it's not. The offing is actually the most distant part of the sea you can see in the horizon. And it was a word I've never come across before, but that most definitely made me question a number of things. And it is not as sinister as I thought the title was going to make this book. It is a really gentle and beautiful and coming of age story of a young man. And it's set just after the end of the Second World War, and this young boy who's 16 years old, his name is Robert, he decides to take a bit of a pilgrimage or just a bit of a gap summer, and he hikes along the coastline and he ends up coming to this location where he meets a woman named Dulcie who teaches him so many things about life, and it is really a beautiful read. I really did enjoy it, but the title had me thinking at first. The other book that made me ask a lot of questions from the title alone, let alone once I got into the book, was The Assassination of Marilyn Monroe. This is a book I read probably a couple of decades ago. I have a major fascination with Marilyn Monroe. Donald Wolfe this is his first book. He was actually a screenwriter, and I think he worked for like Steven Spielberg even. But this is his first book after years and years of research, and it is phenomenal. If you're a fan of Golden Age Hollywood, Marilyn Monroe, the mystery that still surrounds her death to this day, it really asks a lot of questions in this book. It gives a lot of answers as well. It is a really thorough investigation rather than just being a story about gossip, and I really, really enjoyed it. So The Assassination of Marilyn Monroe, I asked a lot of questions after this book. Have you ever read a book with a heartwarming title? I would have to say the most heartwarming title would be The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Just the words enchanted, you don't often see that these days, unless you're a Taylor Swift fan, I guess. But it really did sound quite beautiful and wholesome and quite warm. So I definitely think that is one. The Enchanted April, if you haven't read it, I would really recommend it. It is a very easy read. It's about 4 women who are not friends, but they become acquaintances, and they decide to lease this villa in Italy for the month of April. And they leave dreary London and go and do that. And they just find this restoration and this something that comes out of being in this location really changes them. And if you are someone who loves holidays and vacations, you will know that, because you go to these places and you just feel like a different person. Maybe the things that used to ail you when you're at home they're not a problem for you when you're away, and you see life differently. And it's a beautiful book. If you haven't read it, it'd be great. And especially if in the Northern Hemisphere, I think this is a perfect time for you to read it. Have you ever read a title with an unusual combination of words? The first one that jumped to mind for me was The Sisters Brothers. Even now, I can't wrap my lips around the words all in the same sentence. Hey, shh, be quiet. Be quiet. And the main characters in this story is Eli and his brother Charlie, sisters. And they are the Sisters Brothers, who are these assassinators? They are guns for hire in the Wild West. And that is most definitely an unusual combination of words. Have you ever read a book with a fantastic or magical title? Now, I haven't read this book yet. I actually got it for Christmas, and it is called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. I haven't read it yet, but look at this end papers. This is just so beautiful. And it is a little story of a boy, a horse, his fox, and a mole. And it is like a little journey that you go on with them. Beautiful illustrations. Not a super big book, but I think this is quite a magical title. Just thinking of all the things that they were going to get up to. It's just so lovely. And I think I haven't read it yet, but I think it's going to be very Little Prince vibes, where they're going on a journey and they're learning life lessons and things that you can take away in your own life. Have you ever read a title which is a contradiction or describes the impossible? The book that came to mind for this was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, I think it is. I don't have it with me. I've lent it to someone. And just the title was like tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It didn't make any sense to me at all. When you read the book, it makes a little more sense. And it is a really interesting book. Not one that I normally would have picked up because it is centered around the video game industry and people who play video games and create video games, which is not something I normally would be into. But it is a beautifully written book. It's a great, real coming-of-age story of these 2 people that come together because they love video games and go on to create video games, and it takes through all their life. I think it is a book that deserved all the hype it got at the time, and the title is, I don't know, is it a contradiction? I don't know if it is a contradiction or describes the impossible. Maybe that should have been an unusual combination. So those are my selections for this particular tag, the winning title tag. I hope you enjoyed these books. I hope Luna did not snore too much. If you want to pick up this tag, I would really encourage you to do it. I'm not going to tag anyone in particular, but please pick it up. I would love for you to tag me so I can have a look at your answers as well. That would be great. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.